Welcome. So nice to have you here. Hope you're doing well. Grab a coffee and settle in on a little fasting space this morning. Settle in as we focus on the ever important task of preventing ourselves from living in denial. Do you ever do this? or am I the only one? I did a session a couple weeks ago. I talked a little about denial. I told a story about how I had this denial about some of the problems I was having, doing the show and the live, and the excuses that I would come up with of why it wasn't really a problem, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't my responsibility. These are the classic things we do to deny a problem, deny the need for change. Yesterday we were diving in on the session, I thought really powerfully, trying to get in a really creative mindset to drive a process of change in our lives. Think outside the box and get help from the world around us to help propel us forward on our path. And so that's great. And then one of the hang-ups, though, is if we have barriers, we have obstacles that we need to overcome. Pat is here. Good morning. Hello. So nice to have you with us. Denial and I have a long history. Yeah, you're probably not the only one. And the more you start looking into it and the struggles that we have, and you realize, denial is at the root of a lot of it, because denial, it has its place. If we just bury some stuff, we can just keep going on the course. From an ego perspective, ego is that part that is like, we're good, right? We don't need to change. Don't mess with me, right? And so when you you just put that stuff under the rug somewhere, and you can keep straight on going. But like we were saying yesterday, we're trying to hit that rudder on the sailboat, do a little course correction, take us to a different place by January 1st. 75 days, so the countdown is on. Man, we started this at 82 and then already 75. And so how is the process going for you? Are you taking a step every day? Do you feel like, okay, we're starting to get in a groove every day, we're moving toward where we want to go? One of the things that can be a big barrier, so denial. Thought I'd tell you another story. So another story of denial and I came really to my attention over the last, month or so. So it can be humbling, right, to deal with denial, because especially you say, I'm trying not to do it. You say, I'm not trying to live in denial, and then all of a sudden you find yourself like, oh my gosh, here's a whole area where I've just been going on and on, with it. And so this is why I call the title, Don't Live in Denial, Cultivate Awareness and Action. These are the two things that we'll get through to help you defeat it. You have to have awareness, right? A lot of times we're going through life on autopilot and we're not really awareness. We're not aware. We're not spending time thoughtfully, looking out for the denial, looking out what decisions am I making and why? And are these decisions in alignment with what I'm really trying to do? Oh, while I am telling this story, let me just show you a little footage. Is this going to start? Oh, it starts in the middle. Let me see. This is I was out at my folks out in the country the other day, and I just set up the camera to make a time lapse of the day while I was out there. Here, I'll start. I don't know what I think of the footage because it's really dark when the clouds go over. So, trying to think, sometimes I've taken some footage like this and made a little kind of, meditation video or something. The thing I like about time-lapse as an art form, it's like we're seeing the time pass, at this expedited rate. It's kind of a metaphor for like, especially in a fasting space, right? We're trying to pass the time in a thoughtful way, no struggle, especially why I like time-lapse with clouds, right? Clouds are just floating along. We want to be like the clouds. Clouds floating through the sky. They don't have a care in the world. They're not tied down or tethered. The wind, like our sailboat, it's just carrying them on. They're not struggling. So I always like that. Like you see that cloud up there now, you just kind of see it kind of billowing, and it's kind of beautiful to see it. I mean, it's beautiful to see it in real time, but like you got to be really patient, and to see it in a time lapse, I just think is fun. But see how it's so dark now? I just don't know if that looks good. Anyway, if you have some ideas, can I use that footage? Can I turn it into something? Maybe I do a little meditation type video like I've done on denial. Maybe that's the thing it should be. We'll think about it. All right, so I've told on the story before, so I'm kind of a runner. I like to run. I did the marathon last fall, and then I didn't feel super good after the marathon. Like, who does? But it just got me to thinking. I was like, does anybody feel better than this after a marathon? Is it just about being in better shape? And I started reading about barefoot running. And then I bought some books on it. Found one book I really liked. And then it's a process. I realized, people have been running as long as there's been people. People running long before there's any shoe companies. And how are they doing that? They didn't have these giant things. And so I was like, went through a process, right? Any health change that we're trying to do is a process. Losing weight is a process. You take steps toward it. So I'm like, I wonder if I have a process, learn to barefoot run, if I could swing around an entire year later and run the marathon in barefoot shoes. And would it be better? That was my thought. And I really got going on that in January, and it's just baby steps. And so the first starts of that process, it just have you kind of hopping up and down, not even running, just trying to strengthen the feet, because the main shoes we wear really, they take all the impact away, but they weaken the feet over time. I went through that, and then through the spring, start running a little bit, could barely run a quarter mile, and then by the summer, running 3, 4, 5, 6 miles. Swung around now into the fall. This has been like a big part of my life, a big project to try to learn to barefoot run in order to run these races this fall. And ideally this marathon. And so I got, where are we at, October? So beginning of September, I'm like, man, the races are coming up, and I'm kind of at this level, like 6 miles. I need to seriously amp up my miles if I'm going to accomplish, my task. And so I start real quickly. I plan it out the perfect way. I started 1 week. I just doubled up on my miles. And first couple days is going okay. I can do it. And then, by midweek, my foot starts hurting. But here's where the denial started kicking in. I was like, I'm just having more miles. It's all good. I keep running on it. I keep running on the foot, even though it's hurting, and then it keeps hurting more and more. This is some super denial. I was like, I'm tough. I can just keep running. Like, I've been on this path for a month. Almost a year. I've been training on this. Like, everything is fine. All right, there's the footage. Let me know if you have thoughts on that. A beautiful day out in the country. Really enjoyed that. Kind of half sunny, half cloudy. And I got to the point, I ran like 7 days in a row, didn't take in a break. I got in such this thought, and my foot is hurting more and more. All of a sudden, I'm like limping around. It was like a month ago. All of a sudden, I'm limping around, and then I could barely run. I was like, oh my gosh, like this has been like weeks. I've been in total denial. I'm like, I think, oh, this problem is just going to go away. I think, oh, I have like reached some state where I can just do whatever I want because I've been training so long. I don't need to listen to my body. Like my feet are strong now. I started training last January. And then it was like, I created a serious problem for myself where it was like, I've been working on this running project for a whole year, and all of a sudden, within a couple weeks, I blew the whole thing up to the point where I couldn't hardly run. And so then I took weeks off. I started doing a PT thing for it, and then I realized basically what I did to do barefoot running is a very specific form. It's a very gentle, thoughtful form to the body. And I realized when I amped up this miles, not only did I amp up the miles, I stopped running in this beautiful way that I'd been training. You know, I was like, oh, I stopped doing the things that were working. Like I had done the whole process for like 8 months, had built it up where I could run, 6 miles comfortably, not really fast, but like comfortably. And I just got in my mind, like I should be faster than this. I could run faster, And I stopped doing the basic principles that the program taught. And then I hurt myself. And I was really worried for a while. I was like, oh, I probably gave myself a stress fracture. I won't be able to run so long. And I went and got an x-ray, and I was like, I'm going to stop living denial. I'm going to like stop being tough, I'm going to just see what is true. What have I done? No stress fracture, everything okay. I gave it a couple weeks off. I started easing into it again, and it was okay. And then so last weekend, I ran a half marathon up north, northern Wisconsin, peak fall colors, beautiful trees. And so I overcame a bit of denial, but it was close. Almost, think of that, almost hijacked an entire year process to not be able to run that. And then now I'm feeling pretty good again, but dialing it back. But I ran it slow, okay? I was like, I'm not going to be setting records. I'm just going to make it through the distance comfortably without hurting myself and keeping myself running in this beautiful form. And I had a great time, and it was good. And I'm not going to make my goal. I'm not going to do the marathon this fall. It's too much for the current ability. But I'm going to do another half marathon. So 2 half marathons is like a marathon. So there's a little lesson for the day, just another one from my life. Like, whoa, even something I'm really focusing on. I mean, every day I'm thinking about, running and how I'm moving toward it. And even from that process, I went in total denial and almost hurt myself. And so I was not aware enough, right? I was not really not listening to the body, not really thinking clearly. Should have, as I can see, how do you be aware? Journaling, the best thing that I'm aware of to do it, just to write out what is really happening, because then it is coming back at you. Pat says, I'm tough is like famous last words. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yes. There's a certain amount of stubbornness that can be good, right? Like this is the balance. You don't want to you want to have determination, you want to have grit, you want to stick with something. Having a little bit of stubbornness can push you in a good way. But there's a line between stubbornness and denial. And so that would be something really good to think about in your life. When your foot is hurting and you're limping around, okay, it's like that's a sign that we're in denial. That's not stubbornness. That's like toughness, just pushing through in a bad way. So here we're on the path. We're going toward January, health goal, moving in the best direction. What are ways that denial for you can be getting in the way of that? Are there specific ways that has manifested in your life? Are there difficult decisions, that you avoid making because you hope they'll just go away? Are there things that are issues that you know, but you just pretend that they're not really there? These are the types of things that I might do, that we all might do, that we need to push against. So when I read different people talking about denial, they'll often say, like, denial is like a bill that we have to pay. And like, if we don't pay it, it's like it's accruing interest. And I think that is definitely a good way to think about it. Like, if your foot is hurting and you keep running on it without fixing the issue, it's just going to get worse. You're going to make the problem worse. The longer you live in denial, the worse the problem gets. And so to move directly at it, that's the difficult thing. We don't want to do it. This is part of what change is. Like, dealing with denial might mean we have to change. And so yesterday we're talking about ways to open up and change. And when we're doing that, maybe we have to confront the denial. We pay the interest. We pay down the principal. We deal with the problem. Have to be aware of it and then default toward action is what I say. So like, if we're just aware of denial, but we don't take action on it, then we also don't solve it. So we want to do those two things. Be aware of the situation and then taking action, the default to action. Whatever the action is, doesn't mean that we always get it right the first time, but is our default to say, hey, if I'm identifying denial in my life, I'm going to stamp that out. I'm not going to tolerate that. Doing some more reading. I think I didn't bring the book down this year. I'm reading this book I read from a few weeks ago, Against the Machine. It's about just like the encroaching technologization of our life, the digitization of everything in the name of progress. And it's kind of like a critique, or at least a perspective. And there's pros and cons to all of these things. And, I say it here, like, technology's great. Here we're connecting on this digital, platform. And I think that's pretty cool. Some pros and cons to these things, though. And so I was thinking about it in this context of denial. Like, sometimes I think we have the idea, like, progress of any kind is always better. And then I was just thinking of that in the context of this book. Is all progress always good? Like, is the progress that we're experiencing, like, really helping us, or are we in denial about that? And so that is something that I thought I would spend a little bit of time thinking about. Like, this modern world, the context that we're in, is not really a very healthy time, like society, culture. These things are not like super healthy. And so that's the first thing that should kind of give us pause, I think. As we're thinking about charting our own course, like, if our culture was super healthy, then everything, like, we could just do what the culture does, then it'd be easy to float along. We wouldn't have to think very much about it. But like, if you just kind of go with the culture on everything, it's not going exactly the right way. That's why we say we've got to be very thoughtful. We got to adjust the rudder on our sailboat and try to go to a different place. Most people, I'll tell you, floating through the fall, going through the holidays, not being conscientious of what is happening, not trying to be proactive and plan for like the healthiest holiday so that they can hit both good things. Super enjoy food, have beautiful health meals with friends and family, and accomplish a health goal, lose weight, moving through that space in a beautiful fashion. That you have to be very thoughtful to do. You have to bring everything into balance, both like, within days and between days over time. All right, so we're going to have awareness of what we're doing. We're not going to deny that the culture has trouble doing that. The way we're running our culture is say, yeah, maybe dialing this back is good. I found a quote I wanted to share with you. Wendell Berry, when going backwards makes sense, you're actually moving forwards. So I think this is something really thoughtful to think about. We always think, we always have to be moving forwards. To be moving backwards says like, well, that's not good. Sometimes moving backwards is moving forwards. This was like me with my foot. I realized I was living in denial. Now I have a problem. It's not going to do any good to just pretend it's not there. I had to go backwards, meaning I had to like stop running. I had to give it space. I had to go back just to doing little exercises in PT, give it space to be able to heal and get back to a baseline. And then that was very frustrating because I'm a month out from when I want to be doing these races. Now I'm going backwards. Instead of forwards, I was wanting to push forward, okay? Pushing forward would have just made everything worse. Got to go backwards to go forwards. Sometimes. And so, where are you at with that in your life right now? Are there places in order to get on the path, the best path, the ideal path, do you need to go backwards somewhere? Do you need to dial back a little bit in some place so that really you can go forward? Going backward is okay if it's actually the path. A path, I always go path, I think like this, okay? Path in life, right, is rarely a straight line, right? Is rarely like, it's so clear. We're just boom, and we're there. Usually a path is like this, right? It's like, it's a winding road. For whatever reason, isn't it the case? There are obstacles in our path. There are challenges. Anything good we try to do, right? You move toward it, you're going to face resistance to it. You're going to say, I just do like this, and then like, it'll just be easy from here on out. But then really, is it not that way? It's like, I think I'm just going to do this. I did a video last summer where I climbed up that mountain, Mount Washburn in Yellowstone, talking about the obstacle is the way. I was reading through that book by Ryan Holiday. That the obstacles that we face, we don't go around them, we go through them, mainly. You can't, when we're trying to go around an obstacle, many times that's the denial, I think. That the obstacle is there because in order to get where we're going, we actually need to overcome that obstacle in order to build the strength to be able to get to where we're accomplishing. So the obstacle, far from being a barrier from a certain point of view, is actually the thing that we step on to get up, as we're climbing up our mountain. The more I'm thinking about it, this is true with, with my foot too. The more I'm thinking about it, I tried to amp up my miles. I went it took me out of that form. And that's just showing, right? Oh, no, you can't push it to that place. Like, this doesn't work, right? I had that session like last fall, disease as teacher, right? Something is happening in the body. We interpret it as disease. Many times it's a message. Here it's easy to see. The body is telling you the foot is hurting. Okay, you can't do this way. Okay, so then you learn from it. Like, my form is much better now. Now I'm really getting it. I was like, and so that's like, I feel like, okay, now I'm stepping over that barrier and I'm in a stronger place because I want to learn to run faster in this form. Can't do it that way. Okay, so I learned from that. And then dialing in. So we use these things that are barriers. When we accept them, we're not in denial about it. We just say, hey, here's something that's true. Foot is hurting, can't push through it like this. Okay, and then step on that to reach a higher level. Trying to take my little denial example here as an analogy for you. Whatever you're trying to overcome in your life, can you use that process? Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Pat says, I've had to reduce the length of my fast to achieve consistency from 20-hour goal back to 18.6. See, that's really nice. That's what I'm talking about. When going backwards makes sense, you're actually going forwards. If you're able to do that, you pull back the intensity on it and say, is it fitting better into my life? Am I able to have consistency? Does it make it more of a routine? Okay, pulling back is going to help you move forward. That is absolutely the type of thing that I'm talking about. You have to be aware to do that, right? If you were not having awareness, so you had some awareness to do that, you said, hey, this is just too much right now. This is hard. If you were just pushing through it, like me on my foot, it's like maybe you get to a spot, you say you end up burning out on it. And this is never a good thing. Someone go on some dietary process and then, they have some success with it, but they burn out and they say, I'll just forget it. I move on. No. We don't want to do that, right? We want to be aware of what's happening. Take action, which you're doing, so positive. Say, hey, I'm going to just pull this back. This is feeling like too much pressure right now. Let's pull this back. Because the thing we want most of all, something sustainable that is bringing us benefit on multiple levels. You still got the fasting in there, but the mental health, balance, all these things out. That is absolutely the way to do it. So as we think sometimes, if going backwards is actually going forwards, this is what I was thinking, in the big picture, like culturally. Like, we think like, okay, we're so advanced now. We got smartphones and streaming video channels and all these sorts of things. And in certain ways, of course, we are living in the most, of course, technologically advanced time in human history. And it's incredible, all these things. But the more things change, right, the more they stay the same, right? I was thinking last night, like, has anything fundamentally changed about being a human being in the world? We're the same human beings that have always been, right? We got smartphones now, but does that change anything about what a human body needs? Not really, Human beings still needs the same things that they've always needed. We need good sleep and healthy food, and we need to move our bodies in healthy ways, and we need to get, some fasting space. This is something that cultures have recognized for thousands of years. Fasting tradition, I was reading back, sometime last fall, Aristotle and Plato they're talking about this, and that health can spring forth from the body. Same people were the same people, same process. So the more things change, the more they stay the same. If We don't want to be in denial about it. Like, okay, we've got this advanced technology, but actually, hey, a human being is the same that has always been. Maybe we need to go backwards, right? A little bit. We've tried this modern experiment, right? In health, say industrialized food, constant consumption. It's like, this is like the new way we consume our way to health. It's like, well, how is it working? Not really working that well. Let's stop being in denial a little bit about modern society and all of its benefits, because like when a large majority of our population is ending up with metabolic disorders, struggling with weight despite so much hard work, you say, hey, this whole process, maybe we should not be in denial that this is really a very healthy thing. Maybe we need to go backwards a little bit and just get back to basics, Whole natural food that comes from the earth in a natural way, not processed. Not things that come in boxes and powders and, all this sort of stuff. Like actual food in its natural context with all of its nutrients and fiber intact. All this stuff is so important. So important. A fasting space just to recognize, hey, a lot of health can come from the body. If we give it the space to do it, we got to have the time for food processing. We got to have the space. Sometimes I think stop calling it fasting space if that's too intense. Just call it healing space. Think about the ankle, right? My foot, the ankle. It's like, got to stop running in order to give it time to heal. It's like the body. We got to stop eating in order to let those systems have their downtime operations, their healing process. That's the pattern many times in life where there's a problem, right? We always think the answer to any problem is like, do more, right? I was like, okay, what do I do now? So many times it's like, what do I need to stop doing? How do I give more space to this problem? This is true in a weight loss, context. It's true pretty much everywhere in life. It's like there's some problem happening. You need to think, stop doing more and just stop. That's the secret many times. Fasting, like I was saying yesterday, it's sitting right in this middle space between a healthy physical body. That's, of course, we want that. We had that beautiful vision of, creating our physical body as an artistic reflection. I'm just loving that. Okay, and then it's right in that space of mental health, right? We said, okay, fasting is like a mirror that is showing us emotionally a lot of our relationship to food and how emotionally dependent. We know that, okay, we're physically dependent on food, we get that, but not as much as we thought, and we can open up fasting space. We can train the body to handle that, right? And then the other side of it, the mirror, emotionally, we use food as a crutch to deal with emotional situations. Maybe that's a traumatic event. Maybe it's stress. Maybe it's any other thing, depression and anxiety. But fasting like a mirror, because you open up that fasting space, then you're not using that crutch. Then you start to feel it, right? This is where denial can come in on the emotional side, the mental side. And fasting can lead you to that place. To say, oh, I'm in that space now. What do I do when I'm not eating? Are there things that we are then confronted with? Where it's like the food is really a distraction that is keeping us from identifying and dealing with this core emotional situation. Many times that can be the case. How do you navigate that space? And that, that's not a one-size-fits-all process. Of course, working with a therapist could be a way to explore that sort of space. And then I always say journaling would be the next step. Journaling, I always say, is like becoming your own therapist. Whatever that is that you encounter, you're in a fasting space or anything in life, right? You're encountering this emotional situation. Here we're trying to unpack it where we're trying to not be using food all the time to deal with that. That's like fasting has made us aware of it. And so we want to be cultivating awareness and action. So maybe the action is to write it out. Very, very different. Do you have a journaling practice? Let me know. I'd be curious to know what people do. A journaling practice, so different than just thinking it, because then it gets the things out of your head onto the paper, and then it can come back to you. That's like when you're talking to a therapist, right? A lot of what they're doing, you tell them something, they ask a thoughtful question, they'll reflect it back to you, right? And then you're hearing it, from someone else. Help you to process it. Oh, when it's coming from someone else, it doesn't make quite as much sense. Like, why am I doing that? Like if I heard a friend was saying that, I would tell them, are you sure that is really the thing that you want to be doing, thinking, the way you want to be going? But when it's us, we're so deep in our own head of justifying what we do. This is how we get stuck in denial. So having a therapist, having a trusted friend, having someone that we can reflect, okay, these things back, so helpful. Journal, more personal way to try to do it to yourself. Write it out so that it can come back and reflect. That's a powerful way to take action, powerful way to identify denial. You're writing this out. You can, now maybe I was doing it. I know I wrote it. I'm just thinking, sometimes I'll avoid writing stuff in my journal. I think it's denial working. I remember consciously when I was writing in my journal, I was having this pain in my foot, and I would not write about it. Maybe that was the denial, because I felt, if I write it down, then I'm going to know that I'm going to have to start doing something about it. I have seen that pattern too. It's like where I'm trying to avoid dealing with something, then I'll write about other stuff in my journal. I won't write about the thing that's really important. And that's part of being aware. So maybe that's a thing I'm trying to become aware of. Oh, what are the things that I'm not writing in my journal? That's where the denial is really like hitting. And so maybe that's like the next level you can kind of look to. Like, do you have a journaling practice? What are you writing about? Can you be aware, like, what am I selectively editing out of my journal here because I'm still in denial about it? I can't even write it in my own personal little book, If I would have been more thoughtful, I could have short-circuited this thing before I hurt myself. Can you do better than journaling? Can you do better than meditation? Like the whole society we have, all like a phone, like look at the phone. We're so enamored with the phone and the technology, like, but doesn't this keep you in many ways from like getting into a meditative space? We're so distracted by it. This is why going back makes sense. Like, to these core basic things. You want to find a mental space of peace and contentment. Trying to do a meditation. Do you have that practice? That's like another huge mirror. It's like, where are you at? Very hard. I think there's a quote, I forget who said it. It's something like most of mankind's problems stem from our inability to sit alone with ourselves for half an hour. Something like that. Very hard to do if you're not practiced. That's the same thing. That's the mirror with fasting. Fasting, open physical space in the body. A meditation, an open mental space. both of these kind of merging in the middle between that, because really we're just a being, right? We're a physical, emotional being. And there isn't really a mental health and a physical health. Really, it's one thing. And so those are the two sides of that coin, a meditation and a fasting, very connected because they're both about creating openness in the body, and where we're not relying on any external thing to satisfy us, either physically or emotionally. And so both those from different ways getting to that same place. Can you do better than that? Like, has humanity developed any kind of technological process that can help us get to that kind of space better than these basic fundamental practices that, like we said with the little stone, so easy to overlook? Just throw it back into the ocean, walk by it, you walk by 1,000 other things. We think, oh, we have progressed now, we are enlightened, we have all of this technology and stuff. Like, we think we're above it all, right? Like, I get that meditation is a thing, but like, I don't need that, right? I don't need to do the hard work of sitting down with my own self and actually really experiencing it, because it sounds boring. Like, oh my gosh, like the sort of thing, before I learned to do it, I said, this sounds terrible. Like, that's how I felt about it without knowing anything about it or how to do it. So I would never want to get into meditation because, like, can you imagine how boring it is? Like, think how many podcasts I could listen to. Think how many books I could read. Think how many shows I could watch, all the stuff that I could actually do. And how boring would it be? Just sit there, And then, but really what that is, see, that's more denial, is it's the denial of realizing how little peace and contentment I actually have. Like, to actually sit in a space is like the mirror showing you, this is me talking to myself, right? Man, you are not settled. You are not at a calm level where you're just okay with yourself. So I tell you, I think I am, at least a lot more than I was a couple years ago. Like, now I can do an hour meditation and enjoy it, which is just hard to believe. Like, but I really enjoy it, and I get done with it and I feel like really calm, centered. But I spent a lot of uncomfortable time learning to do that, where it's just kind of like, oh, I'm thinking I want to grab the phone. I want to do something. I want to get out of this place. I want to go do something, just do anything. And many times starting a meditation, like, what is your experience? Do you do that? Like a meditation space, the first 5 minutes, you sit down to do a meditation. I always find the first 5 minutes is the most difficult, because it's like you're still in this zone. You're like, you're trying to do this other stuff. So many priorities that we have. What did we say? Yeah, the other day. Don't let the urgent overwhelm the essential. Really kind of essential that we get to a mental space of peace and contentment. Like, that's like, if you don't have that, it's hard to put all the other pieces together. But everything else so much more urgent. Like, pretty much everything else that happens in a day is more urgent than doing a meditation. Like, it's like very low on the urgency list, but it's kind of like, I increasingly see it's kind of like an essential, thing if we really want to powerfully move forward in health. It's at least extremely helpful. So I would encourage you, that will be my encouragement for the day. Take the amount of open food-free space that is bringing benefit to your life, and like Pat says, don't push it any further than that. Bring it down to the level where it feels good and it can be maintained and you feel that it is good. And then wherever you can in life. Maybe that's at the end of the day before bed. Maybe it's only a few minutes. Carve out a little bit of the other side, that mental space where you just open it up. Not thinking about things. A meditation is different than like time to think, you know? Time to think is great where you're actively thinking about all these things. A meditation much more just about openness, about try to see the thoughts are there. You can't keep them from coming in, but see that they're there and see that they go away again, and let that kind of clear out. And how do you do that? By focusing on breathing is how I do it. Just focusing on the breathing, let the breath come in and out. You see that cycle's happening. Very hard to focus on more than one thing at a time. So if you're seeing that breath is coming in and out, kind of get in a flow of that, letting those thoughts come down. For me, it's about 5 minutes. When I get through that 5 minutes, that's those centers kind of calming down. And then you can float through a space for a while. It is a really thoughtful space. You build that up over time, just like we were talking about yesterday. Fasting space, you could move it up in 5-minute increments if you're trying to just expand that. Like maybe you've brought things down to a level that you really like. Never have to go beyond that. If you want to try to build it back up, maybe just 5 minutes. That would be like the meditation side of it. Maybe you just take 5 minutes and then you work toward 10. You don't have to sit there for an hour and struggle through it. All right, no denial. We're going to be aware. We're taking action. We're moving on this path. Here's been 1 week of our process. Fasting space weekdays. Really appreciate having you here. Nice to have you all with me. I hope you have a great weekend. Keep on with all the beautiful health choices over the weekend. I got some live highlights coming out over the weekend. Keep an eye out for that. I'm going to be trying a thing. I'm not sending notifications of it. I don't really know how all the YouTube stuff really works. It was suggested that sometimes if you release videos without notifications, that it might send it to a broader audience. I'm going to try it out. So if you want to see that, I have some coming out Saturday and Sunday. Just check in on that. Might not get a notification this week. All right. Be well, everybody. I'll be back on Monday. We'll see you then.